Okay, good morning. So what do our customers want from their contractors? So the best way to do that is for my customers to come along and talk to us. So today I invited Richard Draper, who is a BIM and digital asset manager from University of Birmingham, Alina Simcott, information manager from, again, University of Birmingham, Richard Bagley, who is an independent business consultant who represented our customer on the IMET building for Cambridge Regional College, and Ralph James, who is the FM and Technical Services Manager at the Met Office. So there's a Slido question. Do you require fact-based evidence or case studies to initiate or progress digital implementation within your organisation? So if you can have a look at that Slido question, hopefully we'll come back to it at the end of the session. So let's put it into a bit of context, really. We are 3 years post-mandate. And there's a recent survey by the Construction Manager magazine that basically led me to conclude that we're probably in the chasm of adoption, although we don't really want to talk about that. So that survey said 19% of customers who requested BIM Level 2 on all projects. So when you actually look at the numbers of actual clients or customers who filled out that survey, 17% of that survey were clients or customers. That's 51 people. Out of that 51 people, only 19% wanted BIM as a whole. That's 10 people. It's 10 people who filled out that survey. So I think we're in the chasm of adoption. So my challenge really is, how do we inspire the early majority customers and create momentum and bridge the chasm? And when I talk about the chasm, and I thank the UK BIM Alliance for this slide, we talk about, sorry, my mic isn't working. I think we're here. So we've got about 13.5%. So the early adopters and the early majority think differently. This room is full of the early adopters. You are visionaries, you're enthusiasts, you don't need data to make decisions. Well, actually, the early majority, the bigger portion of our customers, need data. They need facts. They're not going to go into a boardroom and say, we're just going to BIM it just because I heard it's great. They need evidence, they need data, they need business studies, they need business cases. So 44% within that survey saw no evidence of the benefits. So we're all talking about it will do and it shall do. Actually, show me it has. And we can see there that obviously our trajectory is to get the 2.1 million people within this industry fully adopted. But right now, I believe that we're in this chasm of adoption. So why are we here? We want to dispel some of the myths around BIM, digital construction. The early adopters and the early majority think differently. So we need to share you some fact-based, evidence-based data to initiate change. And we need to share our stories and experiences to make an impact and create some momentum. So what do I want from you as an audience? Well, most of you, I believe, are probably inspired. You're all the early adopters. I want you to go away and think about your audience, about your customers who are not. They think differently. They're the early majority, they're pragmatists, they need facts. So we want you to be inspired, which I think probably most of you are because you're here. I think we're now entering the early majority of adoption, so now is the right time to make change. We've had 3 years of a mandate, and we've had time, and we have had time to get it wrong, and we've got it wrong a lot. But actually, when we start to look at the bigger picture, we're starting to see some real benefits right across the business, which I'll share with you. So again, people in the room, if you need that evidence to make change in your business, seek out the facts. And it's a challenge to the audience as well, and you're all in here, you need to start communicating your facts and the evidence to our other people to make those decisions. So the results are in. This is us as a business. We've been measuring it. We measure everything. You name it, we measure it. And I've been measuring BIM projects and non-BIM projects for about 3 years. So right now, since the mandate and today, we are 1 day faster. So when we look at how we measure, when we look at 100K worth of turnover, we are 1 day quicker on BIM projects than non-BIM projects. right across the board on average. With regards to quality, we are 60% better at delivering a better quality product on a BIM job than a non-BIM job. And cost, we are 1.2% better at retaining our profit. We do not add money onto BIM projects. We see that as a false economy. That means that we're retaining our profit better on BIM projects because we're getting less stuff wrong. It's the simple stuff. So we are, right now, we're delivering more efficiency, we're delivering better quality, and we're a more sustainable business. So I'm quite proud of that. And there's not many contractors out there communicating this. So that's another challenge to the contractors in the room. You need to start showing more. Because if you don't show it, our customers will not make those changes. So part of this journey was, it was me banging lots of drums and no one listening. I actually thought, wouldn't it be a stronger message if my customers sent out that message for me? So I asked some of my customers, would they share their stories on a film? And this is what they said.
If people think BIM is just 3D modelling, that's a very naive way of looking at it really, because it can translate into far more opportunities than that. It can give you an ability to look at a building from every different angle. It's actually something that's functional and that can deliver to you, and it can show you how things fit together.
We've got a significant workshop downstairs so that we could house rolling stock to do training. We were really able to use the BIM model to kind of test out how that was going to work so that we could make some decisions on that.
There's some great examples in our IT hall where you could see that the architecturals were going to clash with the steels. So we can see that rainwater pipes, for instance, have been moved across by about 1 metre to stop that clash occurring. By seeing it in the model, before you've done the cuts in the roof or you've cut your pipes, it's such a time saving. You only need to design it once. You don't need to then redesign. It's a very powerful tool.
There are people that say that BIM is a long-winded approach to construction. You walk around with your mobile phone and pull at the model and have a look at the building while you're walking around. What's more time saving than that? You don't have to walk back to a site office and pull out a 2D drawing and investigate it. You can actually look on your phone and say, bang, that's the answer.
We had a very late design change. Now, if we'd have been doing things the way we had been doing things with pieces of paper, I expect that those design changes might well have delayed the project by 12 weeks. In reality, we only ended up with a 4-week delay on that particular work package. Now, obviously the supply chain is a key to this, but there's a real demonstration. Without the model, I would not have been able to deliver on time.
When we started with BIM, we very much kind of just saw it as, I guess, a model that we could walk round, but now we're here and we are using our buildings. It's very much about kind of our asset monitoring, what maintenance programs do we think we're going to need to put in place, and the BIM model's really helping inform that. We have had to put people on courses so that they can utilise BIM to full extent, and we have provided the time commitment for them to go and do that because we see the benefit to us as an organisation.
If you can send your maintenance engineers to a fault, and they know exactly what it is they've got to do and where it is and what spares they need, you're going to cut out an awful lot of future costs.
One of the most common things that's going to happen is light bulbs are going to blow. You can get all of that information about the maintenance that you require and the parts that you need from your BIM model.
This is about the full life cost of the building. It pays for itself.
It was probably one of the best construction teams that I've worked with, and that pretty much was a result of using BIM and the fact that we had to collaborate throughout the project.
I'm proud of the design of this building, and I think for an educational building that's about making people look at the aspiration and the ambition that they have for themselves and for others, and I really think that this building embodies that and gets a positive reaction from anybody who comes in.
BIM is going to be a time saver, a collaboration tool, and it can really map your costs very well because of the data outputs that you get.
Great, thank you. That was their words. I didn't script that. Did I? No, good. Okay, so that's my customers talking about their experiences, and that's a stronger message than any architect or contractors standing up saying BIM's brilliant. That's the customer's experience, and that's where I've been solely focused. So we've got some opening statements from our panel. So Richard, would you like to introduce yourself? Richard Draper.
Hey, Richard.
Yep.
Hi, Richard Draper, University of Birmingham. I've been working on BIM projects for probably about 10 years or so, working with Birmingham City University for 6 years, and the last year I spent at the University of Birmingham. 2 different universities in Birmingham, very similar titles. My role is BIM and digital asset management, the digital assets being the models that we produce at the end of the BIM, through the BIM processes and documentation. And I think sort of leading it back to the sort of purpose of the discussion, the key thing for me to get out of the contractors is correct information as against our requirements consistently across all of our projects.
Hi, Elena Stimcock. My original background is in the interior design sector, but for the last 3 years I've been working with BIM teams with Richard, originally in Birmingham City University and University of Birmingham now. I look after the information aspects for delivering our projects digitally, so how we structure the information process and how it makes sense for us during operations, not just during the construction and design of a project.
Good morning, everybody. Ralph James. I'm the FM and technical team manager for the Met Office. Frankly, I think I've got the best job in the world, having delivered that project as a project and then taking it into operations.
Morning all. I'm actually an independent business consultant, but working on the client side for the project at IMET for Cambridgeshire Regional College, where we delivered BIM Level 2 with Willmott, Dixon under the SCAPE framework. But actually I emanate from a sector that's been driven by technological benefits, the retail sector, that's enhanced profitability and customer service. So I've always identified with the latent potential of BIM and technology. I adopted that mantra with a passion when I looked at building in the public sector, but met head on the myths surrounding the implementation of BIM. Well, it's just a pretty model. Well, it takes too long to implement, and it impacts on productivity. It only benefits designers and contractors, and then they put the price up. It's expensive, and it doesn't add value. They were the questions that were thrown in the boardroom. They, frankly, are the questions that you guys have got to answer. But we only touched upon them so far this morning. There's a couple of guys on the first panel that mentioned little bits about actually we get £1 million benefit from this, or we get something from that. Roy Evans actually says the challenge for the clients is providing them with information and data focused upon outputs. You're actually talking about process so far, you're not talking about outputs. If you want BIM to be adopted, if you want that 19% to turn into 50% plus, you've got to talk about outputs, because FM managers, or FM financial directors, CEOs, chief executives are actually more interested in results. They're not interested in process. So I think if you need to make the step change between what you're talking about today, which is fantastic, by the way, and I'm still passionate about BIM. I mean, some of the things that you talk about, really excite me. But you've got to change tack a little bit and say to the guys that put up the money, this is what you get out of it.
Richard, I'll start now with the panel questions. Thank you for that. Okay, we'll start with Alina. So what are the barriers for customers when considering adopting digital processes?
Well, Garry, as you mentioned, only 19% of those completing the questionnaire this year were clients. So I'd say the lack of client drive, that's something that actually comes to me a lot from delivery teams. So when we talk about lack of understanding, there are a number of standards that delivery teams try to implement on projects. Sometimes those standards can be a bit ambiguous, and we work with many different delivery teams, but we have to manage our estate in the same way. So coming with different interpretations from one team to another does not help a client. So what I would say is, yes, there is lack of understanding of what BIM is generally for those who haven't done it. But also there is a lack of understanding of delivery teams to assess the client needs properly. Yes, we are interested to build projects on time and within budget, but ultimately we're interested in the bigger value that BIM can add to our process during operation, as it is the biggest part of a project, of the life cycle of a building. There is a cost uplift on BIM jobs, and often it is not for the template to suit our operational needs. Yeah, so we are interested in BIM as a whole, so design, construct and operate.
Okay, thanks. Anyone else like to add to that, or shall I move on to the next question?
Yeah, sorry. In terms of sort of barriers to adoption from a customer point of view, I think we struggle, or have struggled, with software that enables us to actually operate our estate. And I know there are some very good bits of software doing bits of the processes that we need to do during operation, but there isn't, in my opinion, something that will do the whole range of activities that we need to do within an operational system for a business the size of our estate. For example, with our estates at University of Birmingham, there's over 250 buildings. We've got a massive sort of £1 billion programme coming up. There's a lot of buildings, a lot of assets that need to be managed, and it isn't just about planned maintenance and reactive maintenance. There's space management, there's leases information, all of these things that typically would have got wrapped up into a CAFM system. There aren't CAFM systems out there at the moment that will do the whole range of things and have the BIM input. But that's something that I think the industry is starting to sort of get a little bit better on.
Yes, we need to address information for the whole life cycle of a building, not just during design and construction.
Is that something? Sorry, is that something that perhaps when you're delivering these projects, you could guide the client upon what the best possible products might be, or even deliver it as part of the project?
We do that. So our digital teams now, one of the first things they do is trying to understand what that customer wants and what their sort of outcomes are, and we then tailor it to suit.
Yeah.
So we offer a BIM level 2 for no additional cost. That's based on generic data about maintainable assets. If they want more than that, and I know that Birmingham wanted a huge amount of data, and that we learnt a lesson on that.
Yep.
We learnt a huge lesson that actually less is more when it comes to data. Quality data about maintainable assets is far better than data on everything. So you're absolutely right. We do help our customers through that early engagement. And I think some of our customers you saw on there, particularly high-speed rail, clearly didn't know what they wanted at the start of the journey, but we help them establish their requirements. So we feel it's part of our duty of care to help the customer on the journey.
Well, I know I asked for everything and created a hell of a problem for the FM team. So.
You did. Okay, let's move on. So this is for you, Ralph, because I know you had there were specific benefits you were interested in the Met Office. Could you just elaborate on that?
Yes, Garry, we've got a very disparate estate. So having made the leap from a BIM Level 2 project with the Kobe drop and the integration of the BIM model into our concept evolution system, which does work, thanks to all that were involved in that. We recognise that from time to time we have to replace these parts on the estate, whether it be national critical infrastructure. And it's kind of difficult when you're maintaining things remotely to actually point a contractor at where he needs to go and replace, say, a bulkhead emergency light. So my current aspiration is to start the digitisation of the rest of our estate. And I'm hopeful that come Monday we'll be on that journey as well.
Okay, thank you. So to Richard Bagley, what would you do differently on the next project?
This one is quite interesting. Actually, as part of the project that I did for Cambridge College, we undertook to write a case study about the implementation of BIM, and I've put a few copies out. I haven't got many left, but I put a few copies out in the auditorium. Basically, what we were looking at is some form of evidence base to say why it was practical and suitable to utilise BIM rather than the alternative, and to point out what are some of the issues. And as my colleagues here have already said, one of the big issues was that you get this all singing, all dancing BIM model that gives you so much information that your immediate reaction is, I'll take it all, and then all of a sudden you drown in it and you don't know what you've asked for, you've got too much information. Well, that's a big learning. You need to be telling the clients, hang on a minute, you know, it may look flashy and it may whiz and bang and do all sorts of things, but you don't need all of that information to do your business, to actually deliver something more efficient. So case studies are important, data is important, and I think the big thing is communication is important. One of the spin-offs from utilising BIM, which I just happened to mention in the film and still believe, is the collaboration that it drives promotes a cohesive team. And that cohesive team actually, and talking to Alpha here, it's the same in his experience, I think, that cohesive team sticks together, so you can pick up the phone to people afterwards because you develop a passion for the project utilising BIM that you don't get when you do, or you have done historical projects using different methodology.
Okay, great, thank you, Richard. So a question to Richard Draper, who is our most experienced customer with regards to digital. What's the best advice you would offer a customer who's on the fence?
Definitely work through why you want to do it, why you want to do BIM first. And I know we all talk about BIM as something that we need to do, but I think for a customer to understand why they want to do it first is important, and this is all around plain language questions and not just jumping into delivering the same as what everybody else is delivering, because you will end up with an output that you don't necessarily know what to do with at the end. You will end up with a model with lots of information, you don't know what to do with it. So you need to understand all of that. And one of the things that I've certainly learned from my time, and something that we've implemented the change between what I was doing at Birmingham City University over to the University of Birmingham, is that we are now only asking for the information we need. As it turns out, we've worked out that's probably around 2% of the information we were asking for previously. So you can imagine the amount of time and effort it takes to actually collect that information, input that information into the models. We've drastically reduced the amount of input just by changing our requirements to get what we need and not just ask for everything as we did when we started out.
Again, lesson for us as well, that we underestimated how long it would take to get you the information you didn't actually need.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lesson for us there. Thank you. Last couple of questions then to Eleanor. So are you using BIM to assess whole life costs?
Well, yes, the answer to that is unfortunately no, but this is our aspiration. What we would really like to be able to do is to understand what assets are going in our buildings early in the design process and to understand what resources we need to maintain them in the long term. And this is something we feel we could achieve in the short to medium term goal.
Can I just add to that? I mentioned in the previous question about digitising some other parts of our estate. My aspiration for that is to make, using the expertise within the team and the industry, to choose the elements within that building that then minor changes will enhance the longevity of it. And I think we can actively do that at the beginning rather than wish that we'd change that motor and gearbox, for instance. And that's definitely going to be part of our next big thing.
Okay, thank you. And final question, really, probably to either Ralph or Richard Draper. Are you using digital models for asset monitoring and maintenance in the operational phase?
Fight for it.
Yes, we are. We're very early on that journey, but we do have a lot of work to do. We inherited a lot of data from an old CAFM system, integrated it into a new one. We've put the BIM model in there for our new building. But what I would say about that is, from an FM perspective, we never got any questions during mobilisation by the FM hard services provider about what was there, because we knew and we could demonstrate it. And when we then looked at the old building where the assets weren't mapped correctly, it did result in a lot of questioning, and that is going to cost in time. But yes, we are using it, so we can click on either an asset or something within the model, find out what it is. Have I used it? Yes, we have. What type of carpet tile? You know, we're starting on that journey, but I know we fitted 3 or 4 different carpet tiles. A project required new carpeting in a certain area. Well, we knew what it was because it was in the model. We didn't have to go across there and pull up a carpet tile to look at the back of it. It's as simple as that. And so as we go further down the line in terms of replacing cladding or a zinc roof, we know all about it already, and that's probably as far as we are at the moment.
So, interestingly, from UOB, I'm going to say we're not, and the reason we're not is not because we don't want to, it's because we are going through a big change process at the moment. We're moving as an estates team from a reactive maintenance sort of approach to a more planned maintenance approach, and at the same time we're rolling out a re-implementation of the CAFM system that we're wedded to, for the time being at least. And so we're gearing the whole implementation up to take the information. Now, we're creating the information on the projects. All of the information is now coming through in a consistent way. We're doing asset surveys so that we've got assets on our, so if you like, our existing estate, completing retro BIM, so that we are collecting all of that information on these 250 odd buildings we've got. And then we will move it into the CAFM system over the course of this year. And at that point, I'll be able to say yes.
An extension really to Ralph's answer, I think, is how will we manage in the future if we don't have BIM? Because in 10 or 15 years' time, when he wants somebody to go and replace this light in a bulkhead somewhere in Lerwick in Scotland, where he's got this outpost, and there hasn't got anybody there who's a qualified electrician, or even is young enough to climb a ladder, how is he going to know? How is he going to know what to put in that bulkhead? So you've got to look at the other side of this thing. So to a certain extent, BIM is an inevitability, but nobody's pointed that out to the guys that in 10 or 15 years' time are going to be faced with these problems. Yeah. So, you know, we're going to think about this from different angles, and these are the messages that you need to be putting to clients now. Because the stuff that you're producing, some of the evidence that I've seen this morning and some of the descriptions of talks that are coming this afternoon are fabulous. You know, they're really talking about sophisticated systems that manage buildings and assets. You know, and I can see the advantages of all of that. What you've got to do is convince the guys who hold the purse string.
Yes. Great, thank you, Richard. So in conclusion, really, I mean, for me, it's amazing how hard we work when we know what a customer wants. We will jump through hoops. We will jump higher than we've ever jumped before. We will push ourselves into areas that we're not comfortable with. But that is the result of a customer being really clear with us. So with our customers here, we as a business have learned so much. But we're finding that there's, as the survey says, there's not many customers out there who are asking. So we need to inspire that customer to make that leap of faith. So going back to the survey, well, there you go. We need fact-based evidence to make people and make the industry change, and we need more of that. There's very little out there I've seen. People are quite guarded. well, actually, we need to inspire the customer, who's the start of this journey, to want it. And you know, there's a little bit of leap of faith as well. But as far as I can see, as far as my experiences, most of the experiences have been really positive, and you know, testament to my customers coming along today to share their stories. So that's it from me. So thank you. Are there any questions from the audience?
I think this is quite a good panel actually to ask this, because you've all got your own private estates or small estates. It's Robert Klashka from Everbuilt Digital Consultancy. One client, say DFE, Department of Justice, say 20 contractors a year, 250 jobs a year. Can you think of any good reason why, as a client, all of those contractors, sometimes different people in different offices, asking for different standards of delivery from their design team on those 250 projects? You could call that a rhetorical question to some extent.
Is the question, do you think that's odd that they should be having different standards? Because I agree.
I don't think it's those clients, well, but it's the way the industry seems to work.
Then surely an overarching asset information requirement type approach for an organisation would be very useful in that. I have one. It's very immature, but nevertheless. So anything we do within our very disparate estate has the same information requirements. Not necessarily BIM, but call it better information management.
I'd say that your asset information requirements will never be consistent between two different organisations. That's pretty much impossible because of the people and the way the organisations are set up. If all university estates were set up in the same set of buildings, the same sort of hierarchy and organisation, then you might start to get the same information requirements, but then on the other hand, they're going to be using different softwares to do different things as well. So the requirements for those softwares are going to be slightly different in terms of, you know, formats of even as detailed as formats of coordinates or formats of dates. They're going to be different, so they need to be set differently on all of the projects. Why are they different within one organisation? Because maybe different teams are managing those different buildings, so they have different requirements, and different buildings themselves, even within one organisation. Certainly at UOB, we've got a standard set of information requirements that we use across all of our projects now, and they can be delivered to an RB. But I will not have the same information requirements as Ralph, guaranteed.
Our requirements come from our operational teams, and we have to just work really closely with them. But also we need to educate them about what's possible on projects. So what can delivery teams and the contractor deliver to help them? They don't necessarily understand the process of delivering buildings and design.
I think you pose a universal problem, and that is once you involve people, you involve different opinions. And so you never ever...
Are you advocating robots?
you're never going to get across that issue. What I think is an answer is a common data environment. So you can share the information across, and then you can benchmark. And so if people demand different things, you can say, well, if you want to do that, then it'll cost you this because we've done it somewhere else. And this is the alternative that you face. So I think there are ways round the issue, but you're never going to lose the issue. It's like the NHS. You know, there are no 3 hospitals. I say the 3 because I think there are 3 that are identical. There are no 3 hospitals in the estate that are the same. And as I actually come from a retail background, and as I look at that, I think, Christ, I can't get, is patient flow different in every hospital? Possibly not, but everybody has a different opinion on how people move around the building. So you're never going to get away with that as a problem. But if you have a common data environment, then you can get over some of that. And actually, you guys are dealing with some of those issues yourself, because you're talking about common data environments, you're talking about pulling information together, you're talking about twin systems, you're talking about all of that sort of stuff that deals with taking out that opinion-biased issue. And of course, the other problem you've got is procurement is another issue in itself in the public sector. Procurement has become a speciality that shouldn't really be a speciality, because procurement should be about the person who's using the product.
Okay.
And that's a personal tension.
Thanks. Any further questions? Thanks, Richard.
Hi. So it's Alex Jones here at Murphy. Hi, Garry.
Hi, Alex.
Thanks, panel. I think just in support of what you're saying, Garry, yeah, we need more evidence. But when I speak to customers as well, we get the same questions, the same tender questions saying, can you deliver on whole life cost and our whole life carbon? And it's all interesting to us. And then the reality is, when we talk to the procurement guy, he buys cheapest CapEx school. Right? He's not interested in whole life cost, because he is wholly incentivized to get the cheapest damn school out of Willmott, Dixon or Interserve. So I don't know what the question is really, other than stating that's the dilemma we face as contractors.
I absolutely agree with you. It was just what I was saying about procurement to become a speciality. You need to get over that issue, and the only way you can get over that issue is get hold of the people that control the purse strings. Yeah, so get to the FD, get to the chief executive and say, actually, if you deliver this is what your benefit is in the long term. Because the procurement guy is quite rightly focused on the best deal he can get there and then for the product he's got, because everybody's pointing the finger at him. I mean, I've sat there when managing procurement, and so I know, the pressure is on to get the cheapest cost, the quickest delivery, the best quality. Everybody's a buyer. Believe me, everybody can buy better than you can when you're a buyer, and so the pressure is always on. You have to get to the strategists. You have to prove to the people who make the long-term decisions that actually BIM is a solution.
That's right. Thanks for agreeing with the point, essentially. But if we go to customers and we have the likes of you as information managers educating the customer, and they're sat to the left of them, then we're in a good space. And contractors actually can deliver anything you want, right? Where we struggle to provide that at good economic value is when those goalposts are changing so often, even within the same customer. So you talked about the national, NHS and Network Rail have got multiple different faces, and they all look at information management in a different way and a different level of experience and understanding. So it's really hard for contractors to deliver that valuable proposition. And to that gentleman's point there, need some excellent standards.
But I'm sure if the customer could see that we've got contractor A and contractor B, and contractor A is saying we're going to deliver it through a BIM process, on average, I'm going to be quicker, I'm going to deliver better quality, and I'm going to be more sustainable. Which one do you want? If you want contractor B who's cheap, I'm happy to walk away. Because, I think Caroline has taught us a lesson, and the industry a lesson, and it's going to take a while before those measures are put in place when they start to choose other main contractors. We are starting to see that, though. We are starting to see the softer side becoming more important to the customer rather than the bottom line.
Indeed. Please, we're all just sort of agreeing with each other, and I'm happier that customers are starting to recognise the importance of value long term to differentiate between the contractor they pick.
Yeah. Okay, last question.
John Adams from Glider BIM. One of the things in the whole process, the BIM capability assessment, is proving to be a little bit weak of finding out the far reach of the supply chain. Can they actually help? As clients, is there something you would suggest as a different approach to assessing a supply chain?
Yes. Using them. If we had infinite amounts of money, we would use a contractor or a set of consultants, know that they're good, and then use them on the next job. The capability assessments, as far as I'm concerned, are choose my words, not very good. They don't work, because what will happen is a consultant will come along and put their best person on, best CV on there. They've done X, Y, and Z. When sort of the rubber meets the road, basically what happens is you will get whoever's available, not the person that's CV that's turned up. and it's very difficult, and that person then, that person's CV ends up on everybody's job. They can't possibly deliver all that work. Doesn't mean that everybody else who works with them or works underneath them can do the same thing. So I think the whole capability assessment thing is, it doesn't work, in my opinion.
Thank you.
Right, I think we're about done, so thank you very much.